If you're not sure what to make of the theme of the 2019 event, don't worry, we've come to your rescue. I'm joined by the curator of the 2019 Istanbul Biennial, Nicolas Bourriaud. Good to have you on our show. Thank you so much for joining us. So, this location we're in at the moment, Anthropo 5, it's quite central to the biennial, but you haven't been working here for more than a month, I think, because one of the planned venues was cancelled due to the discovery of toxic asbestos at the site, for people who might not know. So, tell us how you felt when you found out about the location change. I mean, did it concern you as the curator?
Actually, during the press conference, I screened a short extract of the Werner Herzog movie Fitzcarraldo, because it was exactly the way I felt. You know, it's a passage where the main character is helped by the Amazonian tribes is transporting a 3,300 tons steamboat from one side of the mountain to the other. So it was more or less the feeling I had, you know, moving 40 and even a bit more, you know, projects from one place for which they had been conceived to a place I didn't know yet. So I had to rebuild the whole exhibition and its logical, you know, pathway, because the idea of the exhibition was to go from one point to another. And I kept actually this constraint, this pathway in the Anthropo 5, which is what was remaining from the original plan.
And do you think it took off anything from the biennial? I mean, compare it to a version where you were exhibiting all these in the other building.
Well, it's like, you know, suddenly you have a story and you have to find a different set for the story, but you have to adapt the story then. So that's what I actually tried to do. So I don't think we lost something. I think it was transformed, and I had to adapt to this 4-story building. So I created a different narrative. But finally, it's just another exhibition, but it's not lost.
Must have been challenging for sure. So the whole concept of the biennial is based on Anthropocene, a concept, a term, Anthropocene. Can you please tell us what it is?
Anthropocene is the term that scientists invented. It was from the beginning of the 2000s to describe the era, the geological era in which we are, which is characterized by the impact of human activities upon the planet. So anthropo comes from anthropos, the Greek for humankind. It's the moment where we're actually a part of we are a geological force, you know, suddenly. And the industry, you know, is actually contributing to the climate change. So that's what it creates, a very different, you know, kind of mentality also, in which species, not only the human, and plants and trees and the forest and minerals and bacteria are all together sharing the same destiny. And artists are showing this also in the exhibition.
And the seventh continent. Why is it the title?
The seventh continent is the term given also by other scientists to this huge mass of plastic waste, which is 5 times bigger than Turkey, which gives you an idea of the mass, and which is growing and growing every day. The seventh continent is the new world. It's the embodiment of the Anthropocene, in a way. It's exact and perfect symbol, I would say. And it's a new world that we don't want to inhabit. It's a new world which is the negative, the mirror of our activities.
And in this anthropocentric, if I may, world we live in, what do you think is the artist's role? Because you want the artists in this biennial to work as anthropologists. Tell us what that means.
Well, if we discover a new world, which is the seventh continent, you know, there should be anthropologists to make us understand what it's about. You know, what are the populations in this world? They're not only human, they're also seaweed and fishes and industrial products, machines, etc. It's all involved, you know, in the seventh continent. So artists are, in a way, between anthropologists or translators, trying to make us to engage with non-human populations, I would say. They're actually trying to translate, you know, between different languages.
And Nicolas, some people voiced their criticism about this edition of the biennial, saying that it lacks local perspective. Were you thinking of the local perspective as you were preparing for this biennial? Because when you think about it, you could just take this biennial anywhere in the world and you just put it there and it works. Do you think it's a bit of a problem?
But that's, I would say, that's what our world is about. In Istanbul, you can find the same issues, mainly environmental issues, for example, than anywhere else. In a different way, obviously. Think global, act local. I think that's even for artists, it's really important. The situation here obviously has specificities, but also we all share the same issues. So why would it be different than in Honolulu or New York or Rio?
I think maybe what people mean is that Istanbul has its own issues and they're not really tackled in this biennial, but maybe that wasn't your concern, right?
But you have Ozan Atalan, for example, doing a fantastic work about the new Istanbul airport, or Elmas Deniz, talking about the disappeared rivers of Istanbul. No, you have many, actually, many issues which are raised by the artist about the very specific Istanbul situation.
So you don't agree on that criticism. So do you think the biennial, this edition of the biennial, provides fertile grounds for relational aesthetics? Of course, when I look at you, I think about it. How would you say it works in terms of that?
One of the stakes, actually, of this exhibition is to expand also relational aesthetics to the non-human spheres, in a way. Relational aesthetics that I wrote in the 90s. It was a moment when more or less the moment of internet, where human interactions had become a kind of stake, an industrial stake also. Today, we see that there's a necessity to expand it to other types of beings than us humans. The times have changed, and also theory has too.
Mm-hmm. And in the press release, you said that Istanbul is the perfect location for this biennial. Tell us what that means.
Because it's a city which has so many historical layers. It's like you have rubbles of history, underneath. And this exhibition is also about waste, also in a cultural way. Every day the world produces 3 billion photographs or images. We don't know what to do with it. There's a kind of huge overproduction. There's a coat of images which is as disturbing in a way as the seventh continent made of plastic. So history and memory are also at stake in this exhibition.
Mm-hmm. And Nicola, before we wrap up, some people criticize the biennial for choosing you as the curator because honestly, that's what it is. I'm just going to lay it down here. You're white, you're French, and you're male.
No, nobody's perfect.
So what do you think about this criticism? How does it make you feel?
I always tend to, there's something, for example, I never say about this exhibition, which is there are more women artists than men artists. It's not the stake. I think it's totally normal. So I won't talk about it. It's exactly the same for me. What interests me now is not judging people or artists according to pre-existing categories, whatever they are, actually, by the way. I think we're actually even too anthropocentric here talking about this. I don't believe in cultural appropriation, for example, because we have to go into a post-cultural world. And that's the real stake, the real political stake today, which is, according to me, much more important.
And at the moment, a lot is being talked about identity politics in arts and culture sphere in general, in the cinema world, in the, music world, and contemporary art, of course. What do you think about those? Do you feel like they're happening on a more superficial, maybe PR marketing level?
I think it's a crispation on the past. I don't believe in origins or identities. I think your identity is in front of you, not behind you. You have to create it. It's not something that's given forever. It's something you have to fight for. It's something you have to build on. So I have trouble thinking about identity as a real issue today. I think it's a thing of the past.
Well, lots of food for thought there. Thank you so much, Nicolas Bourriaud, for joining us.
Thank you very
today.
much.
Thank you.